Silence the street. One of the things that the first barber cat bunch served death first for that, whereas the barber them for the students of Central School District, whereas Robert be resolved by that this Robert for service be resolved by the Central School District, sends it to the state Robert East with H. Gordon served as staff by the District, whereas H. Gordon by the students of whereas H. Gordon by a resolved by the H. Gordon for service resolved by the School District. It is going to be five to state by
So this presentation is really directed to welcome students forward, but to explain a little bit about what goes on over the summer months in preparation for the school year. So you're going to see slides that refer to the data and trends that we were able to set that data school year. As we go through our summer preparation, we always remind ourselves that we are the fortunate ones that get to groom the students who we are proud to pass off to secondary school. And as we are bringing our youngest minds and our youngest brains and our youngest learners into our building every day, we have the of being sure that we are grooming them to be great citizens as they grow up, to be sure that they have the work ethic necessary to be successful as young adults in secondary school as well as adults amongst us, as well as, of course, the academic component. So we really focus on during the summer months, especially prepared and especially making sure that we are heading the students in the right direction. For the past 2 years, data trends that we've been able to watch since the return of the pandemic. I know at this point, kind of really want that to be in the past, but unfortunately, we're still monitoring to make sure that we have made up for those gaps and some of that interruption of instruction that we were faced with. So that's what we're going to see this week. As we go through, talk a little bit about it. We all know they have to feel in order to receive the fantastic High Valley teacher instruction. And what we also have to consider is that it does not look like what it looked like when some of us were in grade school. We heard a lot about the idea of truancy. Now, truancy is a term that really has taken a different definition. It's not a definition that we used to that. Truancy reflected times when students made the decision that they weren't coming to school. I think about the lightning kind of movies and plays and shows that we would see where students made a decision that they preferred not attend. Now, currently, we're doing what is considered in what is called chronic absence. Because a lot of times it is not necessarily that students are choosing not to be in school, where the approach of giving them detention or suspending them was the appropriate thing. In fact, our chronic absences, the chronic attendance issues now, are really defined as absences where a parent comes to know because that as well as unexcused absences. You see that parent is too sick themselves or there's turmoil going on in the home that they cannot send the child to school or write that out. As well as just general suspension. So when we're looking at attendance now, we're talking about it and looking at it for different times and traditional, the past decades may have considered it. So as we approach this idea of this chronic absence, we're looking for now solutions. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we want to go ahead and show you what some of the attendance numbers are. So as we explained before, the idea of chronic absence, the idea that we're looking at the support the family. So when we break it up, we're looking at there's three different things. There's three ways that we can have support. When you consider and we talk about tier 1 and 2, on the lower end of the pyramid, that is efforts that we do, things we put in place to address the student body as a whole. And so some things that we want to do, already started to do, is just to make this school a welcoming time. We want to continue to make and bring forward activities and exciting clubs that make the students want to come. As you see, one of the things there is the idea of free breakfast. Well, we got that already settled. So that's but when we're talking about making school welcoming for kids, in fact, Dr. Bell, if anybody has been near campus, we actually added to our playground a multi-purpose section of our playground. So there has been a poured concrete cement block where the students love to play Foursquare. Well, it's an opportunity now for students to be able to have a Foursquare area, and it can be a multi-purpose kind of area of the playground for students to use it for different games. We also we have a tetherball that's out there now as well. And in addition, we added to our playground schedule, which is a part of our recess time. We added to go onto our playground equipment, which traditionally is not one of those things. But student council members last school year, they came to a proposition of different activities that they wanted, and one of them was the idea of them being able to get on that playground equipment. So when we look at student events, when we look at encouraging students to be here, we need to be listening. Why it was so important for us to hear and respond what the students were saying that they wanted, because we will give them whatever they want as long as they get here to us that they deserve that we're ready to offer. And so that is something that we're doing to address all of the students to get them to want to be here. Then from there, it progresses. Then you have the tier 2 intervention, which is what Rich is talking about. That's identifying those core groups that have this continuous pattern of absenteeism, identifying who they are, who those students are in particular, and then starting to have conversations with them, figuring out what is it that is keeping them from having their students attend. And then, of course, from there, we don't see those improvements based on some of the measures we take. Then there's always that very intensive third where we really do to get all hands on deck. And unfortunately, sometimes that involves from a difficult, hard conversation with families and some, but then it's also a supportive component. Sometimes we look at outside agencies as being something that is going to be harsh, not supportive of family dynamics. But in fact, it's such a more where we can actually get support in the home, where we're helping the parents be able to make the right routine to get their child to on. So as we're looking at attendance, these are some of the steps and ways of different interventions that we can put in place to get us at 94% goal. For your information, the New York State is 95% of good attendance rating. So as long as we continue to grow, we're going the right way. All right, so now we're going to lead into discipline because of course we want them here, we need them paid. So, down to 7, one of us um, learn where the past, and they can hear what they did. They have multiple angles. The past is very blurry. So when you don't have friends find out to do it again. So the buses, the bus cameras that were purchased by the district are paying. Yeah, they're paying off at a preventive.
Uh, Absolutely. We certainly had a good chuckle when we compared the data and considered what may have contributed to that change. And yes, it's those excellent cameras. Okay, so now we're talking about the academic growth. For us, if the students are here and they're behaved, our teachers are teaching, and we have strong instructors in those classrooms. So we are going to now take a look at some of the data as far as where our growth has come. When we're looking and tracking this data, we have our new reading program. So ARC, American Reading Company, is the new program in which we don't have any past years in order to compare the data to. So what I've shown you here is the breakdown for each grade level from the fall, from where the student started. So let's say from the beginning of the year. In fact, it may even say winter on there. But from the first time that the teachers really understood and had a good handle on how to assess the students to the spring. Now, this chart is small, but I want you to concentrate on the green boxes and how the trend and the slope. What we're looking for is that for kindergarten, for the top 2 rows, from the top to the second, we want to see it shift. So the first row to the second row, we want to see more green boxes going to the right side. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for students to be growing from where they start in the beginning of the year to where they end at the end of the year. And as you look and see, we want those green boxes and we want the angle shifting to the right. And we don't want to see any of those red boxes on the left making their way to the right-hand side. So as you look at this, as you're tracking those green boxes, that is the growth that you want to see. Now, again, I have no comparative data to show you because last year we didn't use this kind of assessment tool, but next year we'll be able to do a compare contrast. What I will tell you, Rich, if you can go ahead to the next slide, right now, with our teacher novice in the program and learning how to do this form of assessment that's associated with our reading curriculum, on target, we have 203 students that are considered right now to be reading on target, on grade level. Now, does that look low? Yes, when you consider that, you know, our enrollment at the time may have been about 365 because we have to deduct from our UPK. We have to remember we're bouncing back from the pandemic, as well as this was the students and the teachers' first time getting into this. So what is not up here, what you're not seeing, is the enjoyment that the students had in this program. This ARC reading program puts books back in the students' hands. And one of the requirements is that there has to be a 20 to 30-minute reading block time within the classroom, that the students have to be independently reading. And when I first saw that, I said, ooh, you know, our 6-year-olds aren't going to be able to do that, and our 10-year-olds are not going to want to do that. Well, I will tell you, in fact, as we walk through those hallways, the students' noses were in the books. And it's because it offers them a variety of different genres. That is different types of science fiction, comic, all types of comic books, and different types of high interest things. So I'm sure as we continue to track this information into the next school year, we're going to see this continue to boost up. And we're going to continue to see the gaps in which may have occurred during our in and out and illness times. We're going to see that gap really close up. That's going to be exciting information for us to see. One of the assessments that is consistent is the NW8A growth assessment. So that is the kind of a standardized test. Parents get the results of that in the mail to them. So that assessment we continue to utilize. And I do want to point out to you that for English language arts for last school year, we had a growth percentage of 66. The prior year, when we looked at the 21-22 data for ELA, we had only grown to the 51st percentile. So we went from 51 last year to 66 for this school year. Again, we're really trying and we're showing that we're closing up those gaps. Of course, we still have work to do, but that is part of why we've invested in these curriculums, because we are seeing the improvement. So yes, from last year, we had only 51 in that green circle. This year, we've had a 66 percentile growth. We're going the right way. For mathematics, we're looking at a 56 percentile growth score. Last year, we were only at 47. So again, when we're looking each year to just do better, we're looking for the money and the investments in these programs to be doing what they're supposed to, which is helping our kids to get better each year. And so far, that is what we're seeing. We're seeing the trajectory go in the right direction. Okay, so when we talk about what's going to be our new academic goal for 23-24, the drum roll is we're going to let our teachers teach. You know, we have invested a lot of interest and a lot of money in professional development for our teachers to be able to fully know how to teach these programs, how to teach this ARC reading program, how to teach this Big Ideas math program. And now it's time to just sit back and let them do their thing. So my goal for this school year for our teachers is to continue to support them, of course, continue to give them any continued professional development that they need in order to be able to administer and follow these curriculums we've put in their hands. But it's just to let them breathe and to let them do what we know they do best, which is to teach our kids. So my goal is to really bring nothing new to them and just sit back and let our curriculums, let our programs, and let our teachers do the job, because I know and I have full faith and confidence that they can. Thank you. Okay, Tag, you're it. Questions, please.
In regards to numbers of students, I see comparing the ELA as opposed to the MAIA. 251 as opposed to 394. Is that because of state mandate or?
Okay, so I'm just getting to where you are, Mr. Dean. So
Yeah, that would
yes.
have been, yeah.
Yes.
That
So So the NWA is not a state mandated assessment. It is actually an assessment tool. It's a choice that we make because what this testing does is it compares our students' results to other students across the country. So while we have our reading program that has an assessment that is based on just what the teachers are teaching, this assessment is something that we choose to have our students take so that we can compare them to other kids that are their age across the country. So when we're looking at us being the 60s, having grown to the 66th percentile, that is something that I can get a comparison to see, well, where else did other students across the country, how much did they grow compared to how much did we grow here at Tri-Valley? So those numbers of 251, that is how many kids actually we took the test in the fall and then in the spring. Because sometimes we have students that are absent, or we have students in the fall who weren't enrolled in Tri-Valley. So they only took it one time. In order to be able to determine how much the students grew, they had to have taken it 2 times so we can see their growth.
We have that much difference between fall and spring? I mean, number of students?
So when we look, again,
Seems
when
like
you look,
100 here, you know?
so when you're looking at
150.
250, we have 251, you can consider it this valid test. So we were able to measure the growth of 251 kids. Now, yes, they could have been absent. We do put a concerted effort in having the students do a makeup exam. So when they come back, we get them. But it could also have been that we had students come, and it could have been that we had a student who may have taken it in the fall, but then left us in the spring. So we don't have those 2 points of data to compare. So really, when we're looking at 251 students who have valid test scores, this is good information for us because it shows us we've got to concentrate on attendance. We've got to concentrate on moving those numbers for the kids who did grow. We want to see a bigger growth percentile. So no matter what this is showing, it is helping us identify where we need to be setting the goals, both in attendance and continued academic growth.
Thank you. In reference to the reading,
Yes.
are we using phonics, which they're sort of going back to now, as opposed to whole language?
That's a great question. So this program really has it all. Now, as I've been through lots of different reading curriculums, there is no one reading program that satisfies every student. So what we have done here in Tri-Valley, which is again, something that we can brag about as far as our teachers are concerned, is that they are very skilled and equipped with multiple tools in their tool bag. So when we're looking at a student who may need more phonics than this child sitting next to them, our teachers have gone to all kinds of additional literacy type trainings. Last year, in fact, they went to, I want to say Wilson, but it wasn't Wilson. Okay, so do you see there's so many options out there. So our teachers actually went to an Orton Gillingham training, which is very heavy in phonics. So although our current curriculum may not be heavy in a phonics instruction, they can address the students' needs by the additional trainings that they've gotten. So this program, no program is perfect, but our teachers have the tools to remediate anything that's necessary that may come their way. And if not, they know that we can get that for them.
Thank you. In reference to discipline, I see it sort of follows a grade as far as issues. What do you, as a professional, what do you feel that's coming from that discipline issue? Is it family? Is it just anxiety over what's happening? They're not getting enough in school to keep their attention, or not enough outside, or what? What do you feel?
So we're fun by us in that we're teaching them how to behave. So, when we look at the elementary discipline, it's kind of like it's something that they have to learn, that when you're on the bus, you can't have your lollipop, or when you're in the hallway, you can't run. So, when you look at elementary school discipline, you have to understand that the student getting a discipline referral is basically like us as a parent kind of putting them in timeout for the first time and showing them, no, you can't throw your food on the floor, or no, you can't throw your bottle. So we are of the age group where they make mistakes because they don't know any better yet. So when we're considering these types of infractions, besides transportation, another infraction that made the top 6 was inappropriate behavior, because unfortunately that's what they do. And so a lot of, although we're looking at these types of infractions, our responses to them are ones that are age appropriate, and it's a learning opportunity for them. Now, sure, 1 time's a mistake, 2 times you knew better, because now we've already told you you're not supposed to do that, which of course then our approach looks a little bit different. So when in you asking me, what do I think the problem is? There's no specific problem in our building except that they're kids. They're young. It's their first time in this kind of environment, and they make mistakes. And that is what you'll hear us a lot when we're calling home to speak with parents. We say, they're learning, but now they learned. So now that we've introduced this to them, that no, this is not an acceptable behavior for school, our expectation is that they don't do it again. So please, when they get home, have the conversation to reiterate and repeat again if necessary, that will not be acceptable behavior for school. And next time there may in fact be a consequence attached besides just remediating that behavior. So they're just kids. They're young. Now, secondary school, when they get there, that's a different conversation because I've taught them down here. Mr. Biedenroth has taught them. That is then that's then a choice. For us, it's they look at you and they had no idea that they weren't supposed to do that. So, and I got to tell you, it's fun because they're scared to death. And you really don't have to do much. They're already very nervous. So yes, no problem. Kids down there learning. That's what that is.
In regards to that, is there anything that you feel through your experience of all years that we as a board or school could provide that you could use to move that along and to make it a better atmosphere for them or whatever you need? Is there anything that's missing?
So I will absolutely let you know. One thing that I've certainly empowered my colleagues and I feel like I've always had the support from the board, and what I need for the kids, I will always advocate for, because that's why we're here. We're here for what it is that we're going to need in order to make the students the very best. So as of right now, I can tell you, I just need them back in the doors. Let's just start another school year. But nothing comes to mind. If there ever does seem to be something that we need for the kids, I know that I have the full support of everyone in this room, that if I ask for it in the best interest of kids, I'll get it for them. So right now, no, you guys, everybody's doing great, but I'll let you know.
In the outside areas that they exercise in, have fun in, is that enough?
It's excellent.
Thank you.
It's excellent.
Good evening. Regarding the ARC IRLA summary report, so I'm a little concerned that 47% of the kids are at risk or emergency in their reading levels. What are we doing to better prepare them and get their reading up?
So that is a concern that we're all looking at. And so, when we're looking at the 47% in that at-risk area, we have remedial available programs within the building. But Tammy, what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see that continue to diminish, because when we're considering where the students came from, and listen, eventually we can't go back to the excuse of pandemic and some of these ideas that the students missed out on. Eventually that excuse will have to go away, but for right now it's actually a valid explanation for how limited the students were and their exposure to being in school, the exposure to students being in a preschool, different exposures and different kind of social experiences that they didn't have. So you're asking me, how do we fix that? We fix that by continuing to get them in the door, because we can absolutely close that gaps under the instructional tutelage of their classroom teachers, as long as we get them back in here and we start focusing on the attendance and making it fun for them to be here, making sure that they stay behaved, and making sure that we let our teachers teach. And those teachers teaching include some academic intervention specialists, some of our AIS providers, who look at this data and identify groups of kids and say, you know what, we've got to pull these kids in and we've got to dig down into the data and say, okay, why is this student reading at only 40%? Why is this student at risk? And what specific skill are they not doing well that's impacting their reading? For example, if they can't do short A sounds, okay, we're going to remediate that. If they don't know the magic E yet, because that is how in depth we can dig down into the data, into the ERLA, into the NWEA results to exactly pinpoint what the student is not doing well to increase that. So we will continue to look at the data, and my expectation and our expectation can be that that won't look like that next year when we're having this conversation.
Okay, thank you.
First off, love more attendance and lower problems, less discipline. That's real growth. Secondly, the welcoming part of Tier 1, I can't stress to you guys enough how much that's improved and how important that is to the community. And as administrators, we have pretty much all of you in the room. If you continue to encourage that, no one wants to come to school. A lot of kids don't want to come to school if they see someone out here with a frown on. You know, they had a rough day at home. They have to put on their game face, get a little cheery, make them want to come in the building. And we've done a really nice job of it. I just want to know, coming into the new year, if you guys could refresh that, because a lot of times it's support staff, it's whoever's signing people out, sign them in. Those are the faces that these kids see. So keep the smiles on and keep doing a good job. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you.
So firstly, I just wanted to say, having an elementary student myself, I am super happy with this reading program. It's my first of 5 kids to come home excited about reading and finally reading things that he loves. So kudos to you guys for that.
Excellent.
I did want to ask, are ESL students taking these same tests as well? Is that part of?
That's an excellent question. So as far you're speaking of any of the students who have English as a second language for themselves, and for the NWEA exam, which is that standardized where we get to compare against other students in the country, the answer is yes. Now, if they are beginner level, depending on how fluent they are in English, they may be exempt from the exam, because it does not come in a foreign language, this kind of test. So if it's not productive to us, and certainly not a good use of their time, where we're going to be able to actually use the information we get for good, we will not have them take it. But the majority of our ENL students do, in fact, take the NWEA. And as far as the ERLA is concerned, they do that one too, because the teacher needs to be able to determine if the child is growing at the reading level in which they're at. So an ENL student may have a lower level book than the child next to them. They look age appropriate though, but we want to be able to make sure that they're having the same kind of percentile growth.
Absolutely. And then one final thing, not necessarily a question, but I just wanted to point out, when you mentioned chronic absences, suspensions were mentioned as one of the reasons that students can be chronically absent. Just a thought, maybe there's another method of dealing with these behaviors to not keep these kids from learning, since they're already clearly struggling.
Yes, and for your information purposes, so the definition of chronic absences is one that is a universal definition for it. Again, it's not something that is a go-to for us in the elementary school, but that is the actual definition that is being used nationwide to address chronic absence. All right, thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Okay, moving along to item number 7 is the superintendent's report from Mrs. Long.
Good evening, Tri-Valley. First of all, Ms. Williams and Mr. Biebenroth, thank you so much for your informative presentation. Lots for information for us. And I want to just dovetail a little bit onto that ARC program. One of the things that happens when you take on a new program is you have to acclimate yourself to the program. So our teachers, it's their first year, it's our kids' first year, and every program has their own leveling of how you test kids to see their reading. So for the first year results, for a brand new system, they're good. And I think next year, once they've got another year under their belt, teachers and students alike, I think you'll see tremendous growth. But it's a great starting point. It's good to have some accurate baseline data. I'm very happy with that. I do want to give a huge shout out. We haven't met since we had our Bear Bash. Wednesday, August 3rd, we hosted our first annual here at school. It was an unbelievable success. The weather was perfect. We had so many people volunteer the planning phase of it for months and months. We had community members step in. It was an absolute blast. We had a great evening. And I think one of the best things we could have shown our community is what a community school can do. And from that, we also partnered even more with community members who they want to come back next year. They want to cook all the hamburgers and hot dogs and want to be more involved with us. So it was really a spectacular night. It was great. A couple days from now, our varsity athletes will be started again with sports. So that'll be a pretty exciting time. Our numbers look really good. Mr. Kloss is going to present to us at our September 28th board meeting with all of the teams he has. We're going to do an intramurals volleyball program this year, and we've got a lot of ladies involved in that. So very excited to get that going. I came in this morning and the parking lot was packed. So teachers are coming back. They're getting their classrooms ready. Bittersweet, but always an exciting time, because really when we're here, it is quiet and it's lonely, and we can't wait to get the kids back. So some of you received your school calendar in the mail. If you have not received it, you will be soon. They're absolutely beautiful. One of the great things about the back of it is we have added a QR code to it, and that will always have an updated calendar. So if anything were to change throughout the year, if people can scan that, it will give them the latest and greatest. So if we have a difference in a date of a play or some type of event, you'll have that on there. So we're looking forward to folks receiving those and gaining some feedback for that. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Long. Moving along to item number 8 is items that the board would like pulled from tonight's consent agenda. Anything? Move to item 9, the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Motion by Rose,
Second.
second by Travis. Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved, the board approves the consent agenda recommended action, including the business portion, items 9A through U.
I do want to interject really quick here. So part of our consent agenda tonight is an administrative pilot program we're going to do for 23-24. Ms. Williams and Mr. Biebenroth did a perfect segue into this, talking about our tiered intervention system, our tier 1, our tier 2, and tier 3. We recognized through our data research last summer that there is an immediate need to get some interventions in place for our district. And so with that, we are going to pilot a position. It is called the Director of Multi-Tier System of Supports and Grants. And Jen Williams is going to step into that position for us. She's excellent at creating systems and organizing. And as you can see from her presentation, very data driven. So that's going to be something we try for the year, with a real focus on looking at our kids that need these interventions, whether they're behavioral or academic. And then with that, Mr. Biebenroth is going to step into the role as elementary principal for us. And then in the next board meeting, we'll be approving Ms. Pringle as our teacher on special assignment to step in as an administrative intern in the role of assistant principal, dean of students. We're still working out that. So you will see that reflected in our new calendar, but I am so excited to get this program off the ground, and I know Jen's going to be a great fit.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. Moving along to item number 10 is board committee reports, and tonight we have two items. We have item A is policy 2160, school district officer and employee code of ethics. Readoption for 2023-2024 is in action. Can I have a motion to accept policy 2160?
So move.
Motion by George,
Second.
second by Travis. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Moving to item 10B, board policy summary sheet. It is for public information only. Item number 11, old business. We don't have any old business tonight. Item 12 is public comment session for items that are not on tonight's agenda. I have no one signed up. Item number 13, announcements, reminders, and upcoming events.
I just have one quick one. Isabella Turner is here with us this evening. Isabella was a long-term sub for us last year at the elementary school, and she'll be stepping in a role as a probationary teacher starting in September. So welcome, Isabella.
Any announcements, anything? Moving to item number 14, new business. We have a few items. Item 14A is the resignation of board member Danielle Penny Stroop. It is an action, and I have a motion to accept the resignation of Danielle Penny Stroop, board member.
So move.
Motion by George, second by Rose. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved, the board accepts the letter of resignation from board member Mrs. Danielle Penny Stroop from her position on the Board of Education dated, received, and effective July 17, 2023. The board wishes Danielle, we thank her for her service, and we wish her and her family all the best. Moving to item 14B, coaching appointments for 2023-2024. It is in action. Can I have a motion to accept the coaching appointments?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Rose,
Second by Travis.
second by Travis. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved, the board appoints Travis Wolf as varsity cross-country unpaid assistant coach, varsity indoor track assistant coach, and varsity spring track assistant coach for 2023 to 2024. Moving to item number 14C, Code of Conduct 2023 to 2024, second reading and adoption. It is in action. Can I have a motion to accept the Code of Conduct 2023-2024?
Motion.
Motion by Tammy, second by George. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved, the board reviewed and adopts the Code of Conduct 2023 to 2024 as attached to the public portion of the agenda. Moving to item number 15 is board comment session. Brent, anything? Travis?
Nothing.
George?
Yes, please. In reference to student funds, how long do we hold them if they're inactive? And where do they go after they're inactive? Do they go in the general fund or? Well, there was a list of everything that says Tri-Valley Student Funds. Class of such and such has got this much, and we take care of all those funds. We're empowered to do that. So if it's inactive and they don't use it after they graduate, where does that go? And how long does it take for that movement to go somewhere?
So those funds are outside of the district's financial work. They're not intermingled with ours. Each one of those items on there is a extracurricular account that is driven by an advisor and students and presidents. So we have an extracurricular treasurer who provides these reports. So the student funds, when they go in there, whatever they're raising, usually they have an idea we want to do this, and they'll raise X number of dollars and spend it. Depending upon which one it is, like you'll see sometimes there's gifts from one class to another. Some of them are perpetual. Like they'll sit there and go, okay, so this year was, I don't know, just say an art club or whatever it might be, and it had $100 left in it. That's their start for next year for the next students moving in. So most of those funds are not actually the funds of an individual student. Understood? Or
No, it's a class. I understand.
yeah. So when you say give them back, they're really truly not given back per se because they're just perpetual.
No, I didn't mean giving back. I want to know what was done with them if they're not used. Does it move to the class under them, or what do you do with it if there's no place for it?
They're very, if you look at them, they're all, most of them are very active accounts because the advisors, they keep moving so that it's an in and out. If you took a synopsis of the year from September through the end of the year, you'll see a lot of movement in different clubs depending upon their season and where they're going. So
Pretty good money in there.
yeah, no, there's pretty good money in there, but it's perpetual and it moves all the time. So, like I do know you'll see the senior class, and the one common area is like student council, second. Sometimes there's some movement into the student council when the gifts are given to the school, whether they buy something or do something. Those are coming out of class of council. Sometimes they make gifts to the school.
Yeah, I would just hate to see these funds go to the district and not move them down to another.
Those funds do not interact with district funds at all. That's the way extracurricular is set up. They're completely separate from the taxpayers and the school's general fund.
Thank you. Just a sort of a congratulations to our bus contractor. There's a news release. It has Nick Vallone, which is our contractor. Nick Vallone, Executive Vice President of Rolling V Bus, Corporate and President of New York State, and President of New York State School Bus Contractor Association, has been chosen as one of the 2023 Transportation Power 100. And with that, he has 10% of the people on that committee that he knows. So it's quite a honor for him. And I think it's a something that should be noted with us because we do have them as a contractor, and they are very good. And along with that, I understand that September is School Bus Drivers Month, and maybe we could honor them in some way this year to show appreciation, because a lot of them are local people that take pride in driving and bringing our kids to school, but also they do it in a safe way. And we've been very fortunate not to have any serious accidents, especially with the anxiety level amongst many, many people on the highway today. Surplus equipment. Explain that a little bit. What's the process with that? And because I'm looking over some of the equipment, and I'm saying maybe we don't have it or could use it because there's something matter with, maybe because of legalities, but maybe some other organization could use it. I know it's difficult to find parts and stuff in this age, but maybe even some child doesn't have it that is a student of us. And I know it's hard to accumulate that stuff and have a place for it, but it just saddens me to see it junked. Is there a policy?
Well, excess items run the myriad.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
From
sure.
books to athletic equipment to technology to mowers. So there's a wide variety of excess equipment. Any school in New York State or public school, we all have our stuff. And we're also not in the business of running, flea
Yard
markets
sales?
and yard sales. So when you see an excess item, it's been accessed by an expert in that area that says this is no use anymore, but it might still work, or it's just worn out, or it
I
might
don't
be
have
doing-
an issue on
So
anybody's
usually
opinion.
what we do, and it is a myriad of ways of what happens afterwards. We do some accumulation of things that we have value and have merit, and try to operate a yard sale / silent auction, whatever it might be. Other times we end up, quite honestly, some things do get junk because they are junk, but you still have to access them. As far as looking for other organizations and things, there used to be a lot of success in that. And every school's doing the same thing. So depending upon what it is, whoever, I reach out to my colleagues, does anybody have the need? If we're getting rid of some desks that we don't need anymore, does anybody need anything? Every other school is doing the same thing. We reach out to some local organizations within the county. We've had a small amount of success. Lots of times, even when things are free, it becomes difficult. So, the process is just that we have to look at things, take a look at them, and trust that the people that are just saying that they need to be accessed, that they're good to access. We have a very busy day, every one of us. So like I said, I'm not trying to diminish the fact that there are people that might need things, but it's very difficult to coordinate on that. We try as best we can. Our yard sale or an auction that we had last year, where we had items all over the campus and people came and put in silent auction bids, that's a rarity. A lot of schools don't do that. So we try. Could we do better? Of course we could, but the time and manpower is of the essence.
Oh, I appreciate that. I understand it. And what do we do on our bigger items? Do we have a set policy on our bigger items that, number one, who determines the usefulness of it, number one? Number two, what do we do with it when it's what threshold do we put it out to bid, or just throw it away, or just ask around if you want it, or you don't want it, put it in the bid? What is do we have a policy on that?
I wouldn't say we have a written school board policy, and I don't know that to be 100% true right this second, but I will tell you it's done by, if it doesn't work and it's useless, obviously it's trash. If it may have some usefulness left in it, maybe in a smaller application when you're talking bigger items, that's when we accumulate stuff, wait till the spring usually, and try to have an auction, yard sale, whatever it might be. And that we try to be, last year was a tough one because we try to be as fair as possible. So that's why we went with a silent auction last year, where people could put bids in on there and it goes to the highest bidder. It's like I said, we're charged with being fair to everybody, and we try to do that to the best of our ability. Some people bought things for $1 last year. Other people, I couldn't believe what certain things went for. They bid $600 on something that, the next bid was $10. So, it's just a process. We're trying to just make it available to the public to the best of our ability. And when things are left over, there was a few items left over. We tried like mad, and like things didn't get bid on. The public came. I don't know how many people may have showed up. It might have been 35 or 40, but shouldn't ask my opinion on stuff, because sometimes who wants it? So if nobody wants to bid on it, we have to access it. Truly get rid of it.
Thank you.
George, there is a policy. It's 6900, and it does talk about the disposal of district property and outlines it if it's in really bad shape, if they scrap the metal.
I look for it. I couldn't. I'm sorry. Thank you.
900.
The calendar, I mean, I'm impressed by it. It's good. I think it's a good thing. We got ours in our mail today.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome all the new hires, and more importantly, I'd like to congratulate our vice principal in the elementary moving up to principal. So thank you. I think that's it. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Joe.
President.
Rose?
My only thing is I noticed that the policy committee did a lot of work the other day, so thank you for that. Looks like there's 12 different policies that are going to be up for first reading. Hopefully we'll get those in advance.
If I may add something. If I may add something to that, we spent a lot of time on that, and there's a lot of new stuff coming about. So I encourage the other board members to really read it. And look, we're a policy committee with what, 4 of us, 3 of us. So please look at them and see what you think about them. Some of them are quite serious this time around, and I'd just like to have your input. Thank you.
Tammy?
I'd just like to thank the policy committee for the hard work that they've put in on the reviews that they've done. It's definitely not a fun task to do. I'd also like to congratulate everybody in their new positions going forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this pilot program progresses.
We are still looking for a modified football coach. People can ask around. There's a bunch of kids signed up. I don't want to see them miss their season, and I don't have any more time. So, if somebody can ask around a little bit, see someone step up. Thank you.
I just have 2 things. I wanted to just acknowledge all the staff that helped out with community schools and all the board members and everyone else who showed up and gave it their support, and I hope to see everyone there next year. The only other thing would be the vacancy in the board seat. We're going to start making arrangements to advertise that, and if there's anyone in the community who's we'll be able to submit a letter of interest, and we'll review it and try to come to a decision. So thank you. Moving along to item number 16 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by
Second.
Motion by Rose, second by Travis.
Tim motioned it.
Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
Aye.
As unanimous, it's 7:58 p.m. Thank you for coming. Have a good night.